read you. I'm going to introduce you to the 4 chickens of the actual Asquawkalypse. Our chickens have been out in the rain, and when they return to their coop that dark and stormy night, they get a really big surprise. Just
Where's your dresser?
Right here. Come on, the wardrobe.
now I can't see anything. All right. I think I'm ready. We shuffled through the door into the hen house, and we were so exhausted that we all agreed we'd have only one supper, and then it was off to roost. But as we waddled into the warming glow of the coop's light, Tootsie gave a toot of alarm. At first, I didn't know what I was even looking at. Everyone was staring up at our perch, so I looked up too. On the roosts in front of the window were a pack of raccoons or skunks or something. I gave a startled cluck and a jump, and their 4 keen faces tracked me. No, they weren't raccoons or skunks. They were funny-looking hawks or fancy crows or something. I thought they were covered in fur, but it was black and gray feathers. 3 had puffs of fluffy feathers all over their heads. One of them was so black that her feathers flashed with green luster. It was the strangest looking bird. It had black legs, black eyes, a black comb, and black wattles. And that's when I realized they were chickens. Demon chickens. The tall one on top roost with the black and gray barring had leather cuffs around its legs and a shaggy black feather mullet that burst out around a big fancy comb. The black one had a stud piercing above one eye. The 2 gray chickens with the floppy feather duster heads had eyebrows for Numi's sake. They had shaggy feathery legs and black laced gray collars. They had rings on their claws and their beaks were painted red. Evil clown chickens, that's what they were. Their eyes were outlined in black to make them stand out more, to make them look more threatening. Who wants to arrive home hungry and tired at the end of the day and find a gang of evil clown chickens in their bed? I was right. Reality was broken. By this point, we were all sounding the alarm, but the devil chickens just stood there silently and watched us panic. All of us but Rosie. Rosie stood alone in the middle of the floor, soaked and dazed, and just gazed up at them. Then I realized I hadn't seen her in the pottery factory with the rest of us. Unreasonable noticed her too, and marched up, demanding, "What the cluck is this?" Rosie looked at her and shrugged. "I was pecking the petunias when they came running out of the forest. I didn't know what I was even looking at. I thought I'd had too many petunias." Her dreamy gaze turned back up to them. "They looked so sad and bedraggled, so I invited them inside." On the top roost, the big one with the floppy comb and the black and gray feathers hopped excitedly from side to side, his long drooping tail feathers swishing back and forth behind him. And it was a him, I realized. It was a rooster. "Whoa," I squawked. We'd never had a rooster in the coop before. The alarm was still going on, but a couple of hens started cooing. The chickens were preening and fluttering their feathers, fluffing themselves up. I didn't know what to think. I'd heard of roosters, sure, but I'd never seen one. When I looked, he was a chicken, but when I really looked, he was more like a chicken, if you know what I'm saying. In the beam of the coop light, he paraded back and forth, while on the perch below, the black one and the 2 fluffy-headed gray ones just glared at us. "Chickies, my chickies!" His crow pierced the air, cutting through the clamor of our alarm. He stood up straight and spread his wings wide, crowing, "It's too much! No, chickies, too much! Thank you, I love you too!" And after a few last ragged squawks, the alarm died out, and we stood around awkwardly, blinking at each other. "It's an honor, chickies! Being welcome to your fresh digs, yo! We gonna rock this pimpin' coop or what?" "What?" someone called from over by the ramp. That's what I'm talking about, Chooks. Let's kick this party up. And he started strutting back and forth across top roost, clucking a tune to himself and flapping his wings. I turned to Scraggle. What the flock is going on? For the first time ever, Scraggle didn't know what to say. But who are you and what are you doing in our bed? Goldie asked. She twisted around to rub her beak at the preen gland above her tail and prepared to do some last-minute grooming. She looked at the rooster from the corner of her eye and blinked flirtatiously at him. She blinked too many times and then shook her tail feathers. It was embarrassing. The rooster winked at her, then threw a wing across his breast as he said, "Chickie, where are my manners, yo? Let me introduce the band." Then he gestured with that wing toward the black chicken. On bass guitar and vocals, we have Night Itself, Raven Chicken. The black hen narrowed her black eyes and swept her gaze across us. It was the blackest gaze. She was the absence of light. She was the menace of midnight. She was the scariest chicken I'd ever seen. There was uneasy grumbling all around. Someone pooped. I might have pooped. And on keyboards and drums, the Pointed Sisters, Ophelia and Desdemona Chicken! The rooster swept his wing across the two gray hens with the shaggy pom-pom crests and the lipstick beaks. They posed next to each other as near mirror images, and I realized they were twins. One had blue ears, but otherwise, they were identical. They had black laced gray feathers and unshaven feathery legs. What is even happening? I demanded, looking around at my flock, but no one had an answer. They were open-beaked and staring. And as for me, chickies, he stopped in front of the dirty window and looked at his smudged reflection. He blew a kiss to himself and turned back to us. On vocals and swinging the black axe of lead guitar, it's the one and only. He flapped his wings, threw his head back, and crowed, "Silky Rooster!" The sound that came out of him was horrible, and yet, at the same time, half of the hens squatted and spread their wings in their mating crouch. It was shameless. Then I noticed the funny way I was standing, and I stood up straight and had a quick shake as I glanced around at everyone else. I did not like this at all. I mean, part of me liked it, but that just made me nervous. The room was full of the sounds of excited hens fussing and preening and fluffing their feathers. They sighed and gurgled, and their usually suspicious eyes sparkled. Goldie was totally in love. Boopsie and Tootsie looked like they were going to lay eggs. Please, chickies, please! There's no need for us to act like animals. I've got love for all y'all. Just make an orderly queue, you dig? Silky said, swishing his long, sexy tail feathers from side to side. Then Scraggle's voice cut through the babble. What are you talking about, you silly rooster? The room went silent. What's that, Mama Chuck? Silky asked, checking out the reflection of his other side. You said guitars, keyboards, and drums. You don't have any instruments. You're speaking nonsense. Why are you in our bed? Our gear is still in the bus, the blue-eared chicken said. We got caught in the rain, so your friend here, she gestured toward Rosie, said we could crash for the night. Chickies! The rooster spread his wings again before crowing, it's Alektorophobia in the house! Silence replaced his piercing scream, and he frowned at our lack of reaction. We're famous, chickies! He tried desperately. We're Alektorophobia! Mavericks of the poultry goth heavy metal scene, you dig? I've never heard of you, Unreasonable shouted from behind the theater. We won the 2022 Juno Award for Best Avian Punk Album of the Year! Still no reaction. We're famous! He tried again. Who did you say you were? Asked Scraggle. Alektorophobia, the fear of chickens, chickies. Vanguard of the post-punk feather wave of Gallus grindcore. You feel me? He was strutting and flapping again, getting really worked back up. The rock and roll life is my labor of love. Chicks have been flocking to me since I rapped out my first pip. I mean, I am the cock of the rock, yo! I'm a cock! I play rock! You feel me? I got rock in my blood, chickies, granite in my veins. enthusiasm stirred the hens up again, and there was a burst of excited clucking. I went straight to alarm, because I didn't like any of this. He was strutting on our perch, squawking his nonsense, and blowing kisses to his reflection. The hens were fanning themselves and fainting. With these punk chickens in our bed, the integrity of our pecking order was completely thrown into question. The universe was fraying at the edges. Logic was starting to come apart. It felt like the ground under me was shifting. Okay, so I was kind of sliding around on the straw, but you know what I mean. Ever since losing Luckless, the world had been unraveling. Nothing had been the same. Nothing felt safe. As I watched and cringed at the embarrassing spectacle of my sister hens swooning over this cocksure rooster, I got this funny feeling in my butt. Ah! I squawked as I realized I was doing the mating pose again. Silky flapped his wings, threw his head back, and let go with another crow. We all winced at the sound, and when it ended, a chorus of chicken sighs went around. I'd like to say it was because we were all relieved the sound had ended, but I had gotten back into that stupid mating crouch. Stop it! I scolded my legs, and I pecked resentfully at my own thighs. I was scared, I was angry, and I was confused. I wasn't ready for a rooster to be in the coop. Yeah, I fantasized about roosters. Who hadn't? But now that I was actually seeing one, and Yumi forbid hearing one, I felt really disappointed. I had imagined them to be like hens, just a bit bigger and prettier, with a floppy comb that would droop charmingly over one eye, as he blinked at me and invited me to come raid the strawberry patch. We'd waddle and snack, and he'd say things to me like, "Your eyes look like roly-poly bugs, and your claws look like caterpillars. Not the fuzzy caterpillars, the other ones." And it would be just him and me. We'd hop over the fence together, make a nest under the hedge, and all the hens would watch us through the chain link and sigh with envy. But this rooster, he was all, "Get a load of me, chickies, and who wants to line up for love?" And constantly checking his reflection in the dirty window. He had that obnoxious crow, that arrogant swagger, and he stood on top perch like he owned the place. He was irritating, he was narcissistic, and he was so, so beautiful. I got songs in my spurs, I got the beat in my bones, yo. I was tapping my 8 tooth in time to it when I broke out of the shell. And that's what I've been doing ever since, Chucks. I've been breaking out with the beat. I've been rolling on the vibe to freedom. He spread his wings wide and crowed, "Who wants to go for a ride?" Goldie hopped and clapped her wings, Tootsie fanned herself and swooned, and hens erupted in a cheer of clucking. Silky bounced on the roost and shouted, "Come on, chickies, let's party!" He flapped his wings, threw his head back, and let go with another ear-splitting crow. "Rock-a-doodle-doo!" At that moment, the timer made an audible click and the coop light went out, casting us all into darkness. Praise the Numi. From somewhere above us, we could hear Silky mutter, "Ah, shit."